Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Midday Live from the News Hub at Addis Awikanda. I am Portia Gabo. Coming up, the headlines. MP for Ningo Prampram, Sam George, testifies before the Emil Short Commission. Newly enskinned Yana Abubakari gives Bolilana and Kampakoya Na new positions within Dablon State. Nigeria's INEC says it can only announce the election results after Tuesday. And we'll go to UK, where Theresa May facing growing calls to say she would delay Brexit rather than leave the EU if no deal is in place by the end of March. In our very first story, the Emil Short Commission has resumed sitting today after adjourning last week Wednesday ahead of the President's State of the Nation address. The Commission is probing the incident of violence at the Labawaleshi A polling station during the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election. MP for Ningo Prampam Sam George is currently before the Commission. Let's now cross over to the Commission at the Osu Castle.
After which, I proceeded home because my party had announced that they had pulled out of the election by the time. And if I may add, my lord, whilst leaving the candidate's house to go and pick my vehicle, this was around 9 in the morning. That was when I encountered Mr. Brimpong coming to his house. I was leaving. Well, he appeared to be very agitated. I was traumatized. So even if it was somebody I knew, I just said hello to him and quietly walked past to my vehicle. That was the only time I engaged Mr. Brimpong on the day.
Council, continue with your question. Just a few questions, and then we'll rise for a short break and then come back.
Now, Mr. George, that's the surname, am I right?
Yes, sir. My lord, I have videos and pictures that I will share with the Commission. However, I would also want to use this opportunity to address 5 allegations that have been made in testimony before this commission so that I don't have to bring the commission back. Specifics.
Before you go on with that, what would you want to do with these ammunition casings?
My lord, if this will help in the service of justice, they are at the disposal of the commission. I do tender them in evidence.
Yes, you can go ahead, sir.
Thank you. On the issue of my arrival at the La Bawaleshi polling station, my lord, I have followed the work of the commission. There have been several versions of my arrival that contradict themselves, but altogether are pure fabrication. Honorable Kandapa
Sam George, you have,
my lord,
we have given you ample time to tell us side of the story. With regard to testimony that has been given by others who appeared before us, we're in a position to assess their credibility. So it's not for you to go into the credibility otherwise of those testimonies, or to point out contradictions as you started to say. So
my Lord, respectfully, these were specific allegations where my name was mentioned. For example, in the way I arrived at the station. For example, Honorable Kandapa said, I arrived in a car with 3 people in my car and 15 motorbikes. That is what I want to put on record, that I did not appear in that manner at the polling station.
Okay.
Honorable Brian Champong also said that I arrived there alone in my car, but with 15 motorbikers. Again, I want to state for emphasis that I arrived alone in my car without a motorbike. DSP Azugu said I arrived with Mamefwa and Okovandapoy in my vehicle, and 15 motorbikers and another vehicle that he didn't know who sat in. Again, for emphasis, I did not arrive there with any motorbikers. I did not arrive in the company of Okovandapoy. I only met Honorable Okovandapoy on Legon campus at 6:45 a.m. Again, it's been said that I was asked by Okovandapoy to leave the scene with the motorbikers. I did not meet Okovandapoy at Labawaleshi. Again, it's been said that I went into the house that was under surveillance from the polling station with the motorbikers. I did not even know, my Lord, that the residence of Mr. Kwesi Delali Brempong was behind the polling station. And as I've stated in my previous testimony, my engagement with DSP Azugu is in video, which I will tender in evidence here, went from the entry to the polling station to the house with the men on the crowd. And the last issue that I want to address was the fact that I provoked the national security officers. My lords, I have recounted for this commission what my dialogue with them was. That all I asked, after I'd been told I'll be dealt with, was, what have I done? Are you a police officer or a party officer? That is all I asked, my Lord. I'm grateful.
All right, thank you. Just a few questions and then we'll rise.
MP for Ningo Prom Sam George testifying before the commission. Earlier, Director of Operations at the National Security, Colonel Michael Opoku, who made a second appearance before the Commission of Inquiry, says the masks used by the security personnel is necessary to protect their identity. Colonel Opoku presented a video evidence to the commission and a PowerPoint presentation which he wanted viewed in camera. He acknowledged his men did not professionally handle some of the victims as presented to him by the commission.
Most of these people who were masked were not being identified. By those who were not masked, we see their posters all over in town, including the CTU and then the SWAT members of the Ghana police as being wanted. So the use of mask by security services on certain operations, I encourage, and I think we should continue to do it. Otherwise, our security personnel will not be able to do any special operations that they are tasked to do, or they will not assist in even doing common, basic internal security operations, because people will come for them and they will come for their family. As I said, I will provide this pen drive. There's a voice message on it. I will plead that it is not played in public. It should be listened to in camera, and you understand why I'm emphasizing on this mask issue.
You're still watching Midday Live. Let's now focus on the NDC. And former President John Mahama says nothing will stop the NDC from emerging victorious in next year's presidential election. The former president received massive endorsements from delegates to lead the party into next year's election. He polled in excess of 213,000 votes, representing over 95% of votes to become flag bearer.
Results collated from the party's strong room put John Mahama ahead of the other 6 contenders. There was massive chanting and jubilation from party supporters who had gathered at the party headquarters to celebrate the victory. The media had also gathered in the party conference room, awaiting the official declaration of results by the Electoral Commission. At about 1:30 a.m. Sunday morning, the party leadership, including some members of the Council of Elders, former ministers and the Electoral Commission, walked in to address the press. The electoral officer declared John Mahama winner of the polls.
John Dramani Mahama polled 230,487, representing 95.2%. Officially declare him as the flag bearer elect of the
By this announcement, John Mahama becomes flag bearer and leader of the NDC. National chairman of the NDC, Samuel Ofosu Ampofo, said the party is more united than ever for victory in 2020.
Several development projects that were started under his leadership have now been left to the vagary and the mercy of the weather. A lot of the E-blocks, as I moved around during my campaign for chairmanship, I saw them in the bush. Cocoa rows that had been constructed, and some of them had reached the point where they had to be tarred, had been abandoned. Several other infrastructure projects. 3 years of MPP, and then Akufo-Addo came and had nothing to show Ghanaians. So the time has come for us to change our slogans and say, MPP, 1 term. Nana Akufo-Addo, 1 term. John Mahama, Obabio.
The flag bearer-elect of the NDC, John Mahama, thanked all those who have supported him in his bid to lead the party. He was optimistic the NDC will recapture power from the NPP in 2020.
In the next few days, I will have the opportunity to meet our functional executive committee and be inducted into office as the leader of the great NDC party. Over the next few days, I will have the opportunity to express my thanks further to all who have been helpful in getting us thus far, and to thank all and to make a major statement outlining the way forward for our great party and Mother Ghana. I want to thank the Almighty God who has guided my steps and that of our dear party to this point. And I know in my heart that that God will continue to abide with us. Amen. That God will continue to abide with us towards victory in the 2020 elections.
And managing editor of the Daily Dispatch, Ben Efson, has recommended to former President Mahama not to appoint any of the Gang of Six who contested him during the presidential primaries as his running mate. He indicated that should the national presidential election be conducted today, there is the likelihood that John Mahama would not win. He spoke on New Day.
If I'm Mahama, I won't take any of the 6 as my running mate. You give them work to do.
Why not? Why would you give them they are qualified?
First and foremost, there might be, I don't know, maybe most of your viewers were young then. From the problem between ex-President Rollins and the late Aka, it is suicidal for a party to force somebody to be a candidate's running mate. Now, if the 6 of them collectively planned against you, you can give them work to do in mobilizing, but it will be suicidal. First and foremost, Mama's running mate must be from the Akan ethnic group. You can't have 2 minorities on a ticket. Sly is from the Ga ethnic group, minority. It shall be from the Ga ethnic group. Shogabra, he called Mama Timbi indirectly. Because he told Mose, the late Professor Mose, that look, you've taken Timbi people. Now, Mama was picked by Mose to be a running mate. So if John is Timbi, can you Timbi work with Timbi person? I mean, Guzi shot himself in the pot. You know, if somebody's about 30 years now, and they remember, we don't remember Guzi.
Right.
If you are 30 years, in 2000 you were 11 years.
Right.
Don't you refer, Guzi was the one when Rollins, through his support behind Professor Mose, got angry and formed Reform Party,
right,
which created, was part of the reason why the NDC lost in 2000. Look at everybody's strength and give him work to do, definitely, because, I mean, the massive endorsements will shut down anybody within the party who want to create problems.
We have to vote today. Will President Mahama be victorious, judging by what's happening?
Anybody who tells you the person is a liar.
Why so?
There are going to be elections to select parliamentary candidates.
Okay.
That brings divisiveness within the various constituencies. So without that, how can you say that a party can win? I've never done polls that maybe in a 2 years' time. No. Anybody who says that is guessing.
While still on the NDC, let's now speak to Dr. Edward Brenya. He is a political analyst. And Doc, with the presidential primaries over, how should the NDC position itself for 2020? Dr. Brenya. Well, Dr. Brenya is a political analyst. Doc, good afternoon and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Portia. Good afternoon to the able listeners of TV3. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Doc, I was saying, with the presidential primaries over, how should the NDC position itself for 2020?
First of all, let's congratulate the NDC and the candidates that won the primaries. And coming to your question, I think that once the primaries is over, now they have a leader, and the first thing that needs to be done is to try to mend the cracks. If you recall, during the time that they were fighting for the opportunity to lead the party, a whole lot of things were said about each other among the individuals that vied for the position. So the first thing that needs to be done is that they try to mend the cracks, they become united, and once they are united, they can then fight forcefully and united with the opposition.
Now, Doc, as an opposition party, would you say they have been active enough by putting government on its toes?
Well, I believe strongly NDC, at least from the perspective of the members, minority in parliament, have been doing what it can in terms of trying to keep the government on its toes. You would agree with me that when it comes to some of those things, generally, there is a perception among the MPP that the media tends to be on the side of the MPP, and therefore, I believe, given what they have and everything that they need to do, I think they've been doing well in keeping the government on its toes. At certain times, they veered off because of individual interest to vie for the position. Maybe this time that is over, they will be able to do a more united way of keeping the government on its toes.
Now, Doc, looking at the margin by which President Mahama lost in the 2016 elections, former President Mahama, will his comeback give the NDC confidence in 2020?
I think that is certainly, the margin, it was written on the wall. A lot of people within the NDC and generally in Ghana knew that Mahama was going to win because majority believe that given their state now, ex-President Mahama is the one that who may be able to lead the party and put up a good fight against the ruling government. I think that the process has also helped to re-energize the base of the NDC, the sort of apathy that they witnessed during the 2016 election. I believe strongly by now they've been able to remobilize, re-energize the grassroots. What needs to be done, though, is that they do extra. Because remember, in order to be able to win an election, it will not take only your core members. You need the floating voters. You need the independent voters. Now the NDC needs to repackage Mahama in a way that will be attractive to the independent floating voters.
Now, Doc, before you go, the NPP is saying that with former President Mahama now flag bearer, it makes it easier for them to win 2020. Is this the case?
Well, I don't think I'll totally agree with the ruling party when it says that, yes, we cannot run away for the fact that the NPP gave Mahama a very sounding defeat in the last election. But remember, then Mahama was the president. Then Ghanaians could point to fingers at Mahama for problems and the hardship that they face in the country. Now it's a different issue altogether. Now the hands are being pointed at the current president, who is the leader of the NPP. So the story can tell, but it will depend on how well the NDC repackage Mahama and how well they tell their story.
Thank you very much for your time. And Dr. Edward Brinya is a political analyst. You're still watching Midday Live. Let's now focus on elections in Nigeria.
Nigeria's come on men to serve our fatherland.
Nigeria's INEC says it can only be certain on announcing election results after Tuesday, when a large number of state election officers submit their forms. Commissioner of Voter Education Festus Okoye says Nigerians must be patient as the INEC is being meticulous in the processes for declaration.
Heavily guard, this is the Coalition Center for Nigeria's 2019 election. The International Conference Center has over the years been used as the situation room guarded by Nigeria's police force and national security. A new day, business in the slum community of Mambushi is booming. Located in the outskirts of the federal capital FCT, these young men are unperturbed monitoring results of elections on any platform. Known in the local parlance as butchers, their concern is getting their daily bread. In the Mambushi market, human activity is buzzing. Saturday's election for many Nigerians has shown how deep the country's democracy has come, with over 84 million people voting. Expectations arrive even as others take advantage to preach God's word.
Our expectation is peace. That's number one. That's very key. There can be no progress in terms without peace. Then number two, there's an anxiety for economic development. People want to get back to earning good living and having good, very good income and businesses and things like that.
I'm happy yesterday as everything go peaceful, no problem, no fighting here. Everything go according to orders. So what I'm expecting now is let the will of God be done.
I want you do better something for Nigeria. Well, when I don't suffer for Nigeria, so kill too much. Children they suffer, no father, no mother. So I beg when I help also.
Back in the party offices of the leading parties, the APC and the PDP, no human activity is visible. With life gradually returning after a highly tense election, a glimmer of hope appears.
The vote that the Nigeria have speak to, we are praying that anyone that God gave him the vote or who become the winner, we are praying that let Nigeria agree in one setup and give him.
ballot box snatching, ballot boxes burned, sporadic shooting and violence recorded in some parts of Nigeria. This, however, has not stopped many democratic institutions who have described Nigeria's election as peaceful and democratic. For a lot of them, well, this is a call for Nigeria to come united with one voice and sense of purpose to strive hard and forge ahead for a country that has been taken over by the insurgency of Boko Haram and some sort of insecurity. Here in the Mambushi market, they are out of the election mood, awaiting declaration of results. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Mambushi, Abuja.
Let's now cross over live to Nigeria, where my colleague Komla Kluche is at the National Coalition Center.
All right, a very good afternoon to you, Portia. Well, I mean, I can tell you that the mood in Nigeria is one of an expectant one. Now, INEC has begun the announcement of the result. 2 states have already been announced. As I speak with you now, they are on break. The conference, that you can see a lot of people coming in out of the coalition center here at the International Conference Center of Abuja. Well, let me just take you through for the viewers. We have to know the number of states that have had their result released so far. Ekiti State, now the total number of registers is 8. The total number of registered voters is 899,919. Total number of accredited persons is 395,741. Total vote cast 393,709. Total valid vote, that's 381,132. Rejected is 12,577. Now, this is the distribution of it. The AAC had 400 votes. The ADC had 406. The ADP had 126. The APC 219,231. The PDP 154,032. The SDP 48. That is for the Ekiti State. Let me go to Osun State now. The total number of registered voters is 1,674,729. Total number of accredited voters 732,984. Total vote cast 731,882. The total valid vote cast 714,682. Rejected votes 17,200. Now this is the distribution. AAC 1,022,000. ADC 1,000. The AAC 1,022. The ADC 1,525. The ADP 9,057. APC 347,634. The PDP 337,377. The SDP 259. These are the 2 states that have come in so far, as announced by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, and collated, released to Nigerian people. I can tell you, outside of the coalition center, I mean, if Percy can just point a little bit, you can see heavy security there. Sniffer dogs, you can't just walk in anyhow if you are not properly accredited. Even the media, there's restriction. You might be wondering why we are not inside. There's there are restrictions on the number of media houses that will be inside. We do not have access inside the coalition center, but there's a media center where we have everything that is being released to us on real time. Also, the INEC website and its social media handles, their Twitter feed is very active and releases these results to the people of Nigeria. I can tell you also that there's been back and forth in terms of accusations between the two leading parties. The APC yesterday released a statement signed by its spokesperson who said that INEC should declare their candidate Atiku Abubakar as the winner of the elections. The APC has called their bluff and said this is unwarranted, this is not necessary, because they feel that that is not the right thing to do. INEC will not be hoodwinked into thinking that they have hijacked the system. They will just go strictly by it. So this is the situation here in Abuja. I can tell you, there's relative calm but heightened security even in town. This is what it is here, right from Abuja, the coalition center at the International Conference Center. Komla Kluche, TV3 News. Back to you in the studios, Portia Gabo.
Thank you very much, Komla Kluche. Still on elections in Nigeria, the head of the ECOWAS Election Monitoring Group, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, says Nigerian and African democracy will plunge if care is not taken on the influx of false news. Speaking to Komla Kluche at the ECOWAS Secretariat shortly after her mission statement on the elections, the former Liberian president says the beauty of Nigeria's democracy could be marred if fake news is not checked.
Excellency, you should equally be worried about the fact that there's so much what they describe as fake news on social media, which INEC says that Nigerians and the world across should disregard. This should be a worry for your mission as well.
It is quite a worry. Anytime there's fake news, you know, this is something that pertains not only in Nigeria, it's almost a worldwide phenomenon today. And it can disrupt orderly processes. So there is concern, but it must be looked at, and one must find the right way to address it, to ensure that the facts get out, and those things that are not the facts can be addressed by telling the public what the real story is on any issue, including that related to the electoral process.
Post-election, how should Nigerians conduct themselves?
I believe Nigerians have always been a peaceful nation that is stable. There are elements in every country that distract from the normal ways of doing things, from the peaceful way of doing things. We expect that Nigerians will redouble its effort, redouble and strengthen its commitment to the democratic process. Accept the fact, whatever the results are, but also use the lessons of this to strengthen their political systems and their democratic processes even more, so that the next election can be even more successful than what they have seen in 2015 and 2019.
Away from elections in Nigeria, the newly enskined Yana Abubakari has given the Bolin Lana and Kampakoya Na new positions within the Dagbon state. Well, he offered the two callers on Sunday in a historical action in Yendi to indicate his commitment to the new roles he has offered the two. Kampakoya Na Abdullahi Yakubu Andani and Bolinlana Muhammadu Abdullahi were among the 4 persons contesting to be named Yana, but lost out to then Yona Alhaji Abubakari Mahama. Yana Abubakari Mahama has decided to elevate the Bolinlana Abdullahi Muhammadu and Yakubu Abdullahi Andani, the Kampakuya Na to Myon Lana and Yona of Savalugu. Now speak to Sule Mohammed Dawuda. He is a retired research associate at the Institute of African Studies. And thanks so much for joining us. What does this mean to the people of Dagbon?
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I was asking, with the 2 new positions, what does this mean to the people of Dagbon?
Yes, it is easily said that the giver of kola nuts brings luck. But between the giver and the receiver, we'll say there's bound to be trust, blessing, and good luck.
Okay.
Hence, the overall king of Dagbon, the Yana, given kola nuts to the Bolen Lana, formerly Bolen Lana and Kampa Kuyana, respectively, to be elevated to the divisional kingdoms of Nyang and then Savulgu, shows that he is on the right way.
All right. So what is the significance of those positions to the traditional area?
You know, the last discussions we had, it shows that there are 3 kingdoms, Nyang, Savulgu, and Karga, who can aspire to the kingship of Dagbon, which is the Yana. Now, for the past years or many years, so 17 or 12 years now, both Nyang and then Karga have been vacant. Then the Yana, on his elevation to the kingship from Savulgu, therefore meant that the 3 kingdoms were all vacant, Nyang, Savulgu, and Karaga. So it was abundantly clear that the 2 regions would be automatically qualified to be esteemed both for the Nyang and then Savulgu kingdoms.
Okay.
And this is the right thing he has done.
Okay. Now, before you go, how can peace in Dagbon be maintained?
Oh, the peace in Dagbon is moving according to the roadmap that was laid before the rest of them. Once the 2 chiefs are elevated to their various kingdoms, then we are on the roadmap to the peace, because their absence from Yendi, which is the traditional capital, will mean that the Yana has now the complete authority and domain over his kingdom.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I've been speaking to Sule Mohammed Dawuda. He is a retired research associate at the Institute of African Studies. You're still watching Midday Live from the News Hub. We have more news coming up shortly. Do stay with us. In business this afternoon, government is to rationalize tax exemptions in order to improve domestic revenue mobilization. This was one of the agreements reached between the International Monetary Fund and government during the final review of the IMF Extended Credit Facility that expires on April 1.
The teams agreed the country review the tax exemption regime.
It was agreed that tax exemption will be rationalized and their management framework strengthened to improve domestic revenue mobilization. The authority estimates the tax exemptions cost could be as much as 1.6% of GDP in 2018 alone.
IMF Mission Chief to Ghana, Annalisa Fedelino, stated refinancing scheme in 2019 will be used solely to fund budget expenditure.
And as part of efforts to address fiscal risk from state-owned enterprises, an oversight body, I think the name is SIGA, will be established to monitor and manage the state interest in specific public entities. Monetary policy should continue to remain prudent and complement fiscal adjustment efforts to keep underlying inflationary pressures in check and avoid surprises on the upside.
Minister of Finance Ken Oforiatta assured of government's commitment to improve revenue mobilization.
Ghanaians should be confident about what is coming. We've also committed ourselves to some major restructuring of our revenue authorities so that the issue of revenue mobilization will be something that we take care of coming into the future.
The executive board of IMF will need to pass and conclude the review in March ahead of the April 1 exit from the IMF program.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry has asked countries in the West African sub-region to reduce investment barriers in the areas of agriculture and industry. Deputy Sector Minister Carlos Ahenkra is confident the removal of these investment barriers will ensure competitiveness between sub-Saharan countries.
Deputy Sector Minister Carlos Ahenkra was speaking at the official opening of the meeting between President of ECOWAS and the Federation of West African Employers Association in Accra. He expressed concern about the high cost of doing business between ECOWAS countries. He recounted tax evasion and the lack of transparency between member countries which have stifled trade and investment. Of a major concern to the Deputy Trade Minister was the limited volumes of trade inflows among ECOWAS member countries, which stands at 10% as at the end of 2018. Due to these concerns, the ECOWAS President Jean-Claude Brou and the Federation of West African Employers Association convened a meeting to address these and other challenges. Discussions centered on reducing trade and investment barriers to promote competitiveness in the sub-region. The Deputy Minister of Trade, Carlos Ahenkra, pleaded with the ECOWAS Commission to ensure trade barriers are reduced.
We here in Ghana are refocusing policy responses to unemployment and underemployment by supporting macro, small and medium-scale enterprises through the development of MSME policy and a targeted approach to establishing strategic industries, including the automotive industry.
President of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Brou, emphasized on formulating new policies to address the trade challenges.
Financing agreement for feasibility studies have been signed 3 weeks ago for nearly $23 million, all financed by the African Development Bank and the European Union.
Vice President of the Ghana Employers Association, Emmanuel Sarkodie, was elated the new policy frameworks could spearhead job creation.
And this calls for the formulation and implementation of incentives to motivate and augment intra-regional trade. This has created in no small measure decent jobs for our youth.
Cela a permis de créer davantage d'emplois décents.
But you will agree with me that more needs to be done.
And as it's for business news, let's now continue with the rest of our stories. And Executive Director of Anti-Graft Agency of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, ACP KK Amwa, has been asked to leave office by the end of this month. In January, it emerged that some 8 CEOs were set to be replaced for being over 60 years old.
There's a wide difference between sacking and retirement or engagement. It's not synonymous. And therefore, whatever you hear, it's better you go to that institution to find. Yes, I was engaged by the government on contract. The contract has expired. So what do I do?
So it's due to expire.
It's due to expire.
When?
Very soon. And I have gone beyond 65 years. So what do I do?
You know, earlier there was an information that there's some group of CEOs were sacked because of their age. Is it not somehow related to that?
I can't tell. That's a government decision. I can't tell.
Yeah, so what about renewal of your contract? Will you want it to be renewed?
No. I'm a lawyer. I'm going back to the bar.
Yoko boss Kwesi Kranchi Amwa denying reports in the media that he has been sacked by government. You're still watching Midday Live. We have sports news coming up shortly. Do stay with us. And season 10 of TV3's award-winning show Talented Kids has been launched with 22 gifted talents introduced to kickstart the event. It's going to be another 13 weeks of captivating performances starting from Sunday, March 3.
Star Dance Crew came tour and won season 6 with their robotic moves. DJ Switch with her fingers on the console won season 8. Season 9 was also Samuel with his rapaholic style.
The 10th anniversary of Talented Kids comes with a big bang. 22 versatile and amazing talents look poised to thrill audience for the next 3 months. Designed to unearth talent, the launch of season 10 of the show saw patrons troop to the West Hills Mall to support their favorite acts. Taking turns, the talents wowed audience with mind-blowing performances. DJ Princess brought her A-game. Other talents included instrumentalists, singers, poets, and many more. Winner of season 9, Samuel Owusu, was on hand to entertain the audience.
2019 edition of the annual Pan-African Film and Television Festival, FESPACO, is currently ongoing in Burkina Faso. Award-winning Ghanaian movie Keteke has been nominated for the Gold Standard of Yenenga, which is the overall best film category at the festival. The Peter Sedufia-directed movie is competing with 20 other films from 16 African countries for the $20,000 prize money, and Peter Sedufia thus becomes the second Ghanaian director after legendary Kowansa of Heritage Africa fame to be nominated in that category in the 50-year-old history of FESPACO. Some 100,000 people are expected to attend 450 screenings at the festival in Burkina Faso. And that's it for Midday Live. Thanks so much for watching. I am Portia Gabor. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Good afternoon.